Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be taking a look at these two iFlight frames. This is the iFlight Transframe X5 and the iFlight Race 1, the R1 X5 as they call it. So let's first take a look at this guy here, so let's move that one out of the way. So first off the bat, you can probably tell that this is a unibody quad here. And if we take a look at the edges of the carbon on the base plate here, they are slightly chamfered. It's really nice finish. Absolutely no carbon dust coming off on there. Really nice finish to the carbon there, which is quite nice. However, one thing, if we take a look here, the motor mounts, they included 1806 holes. These inner slots here, like, what is the point of that? No one uses 1806, especially not for a 5-inch quad like this anymore. Honestly, that should not be in there, and that's going to make the end of this motor arm weaker. Moving into the side, you can see there's sort of this little cutout here in between the arms, and that is to allow your battery strap to go through. That kind of retains it a little bit, as well as, once again, since these edges are chamfered, hopefully you shouldn't be ripping any battery straps, which is actually quite nice. And then there's still plenty of material around the arm here to hopefully be strong enough. I don't see any issues really with snapping things on this, but once again, since it is a unibody design, if you do break an arm on a very hard crash, kind of going to be out of luck, which is why I'm not a huge fan of unibody. They do sell the base plate separately, but it's $35 by itself, which also is why this frame is more expensive than the other ones, because unibody takes a much larger piece of carbon to cut than just 4 little individual arms. If we measure it motor to motor, it's 220, which is what they specify, and front to back it's 155, and side to side it's about 155, so it is a true X frame. And if you take a look at the hardware on the bottom, there's actually countersunk holes and screws. These screws, the hardware is supplied. I already put this guide together, so all this is supplied with the frame. I'm kind of in between whether I like that or not, because on the plus side, it definitely looks very nice, and it's very nice for your battery because it gives it a nice large flat surface to stick onto. You don't have any screws that's going to be sort of poking into that you have to add extra foam to keep them off of there. They can help puncture your battery. So that's definitely nice. But on the downside, it does take away more carbon, and it does weaken the arm. Up on the front here, there's plenty of material in between the two sides here, so I don't think there's going to be any problems there. But in the back, it does get a little bit thin. You have all these cutouts and holes here, so it might be an issue, but I don't know. I really don't think it will be, but it's just something to think about there. In the back, it gets a little bit thinner with all these extra cutouts and recesses here. If we take a look at this sort of pod design, it was actually quite clever the way it went together. There's just a few pieces that sort of slot together. You can see they just slot into the bottom plate, and then you just have these 4 standoffs that come included there. The screws just go in, and everything just sort of slots together like a box. It is a little bit difficult to all fit together, but once you get it together, it's super solid. This is way stronger than I was imagining. It's absolutely solid, almost like an aluminum roll cage here. So very happy with how that went together. And there is an inbuilt sort of a GoPro mount up at the top, and they say 25 degrees, but if you ask me, that looks like 45 degrees to me. And then up front we have a little hole with the bottom curve here for mounting just your standard size cameras. You'd need some sort of adapter to fit a mini and micro. Here's a mini just for reference. If you look, the lens is going to stick out. Just say you put it somewhere in there, so it is going to stick out. You do have this bottom piece here for a little bit of protection, as well as here on the sides and the top a little bit. So it might help in some crashes, but I think your camera is still going to be decently exposed here. The space in between the body and the top plate here is about 21 millimeters for your stack there. So you shouldn't have any troubles fitting things in there, but if you do need to put your receiver or your video transmitter up top, there's also plenty of room. You can lay them right on this plate here underneath the mount. That's nice that they left room under the standoff for that. In the back, you can see they did include zip tie holes to lay your antenna out the back just like this, and then zip tie it through there, which is very nice. Or if you wanted to bend it up through there, or you could also screw the SMA through this hole straight up, but I really don't recommend that. So for how much this frame weighs overall, it weighs 97.3 grams. not so bad. I mean, it is a unibody, so you're getting rid of all that extra hardware there. Just a unibody True X with sort of the squished in type build is really not my favorite style of frame. So now let's take a look at this guy. So this is the Race 1 X5, and I'm actually kind of excited about this guy. You can see it looks pretty cool right off the bat, sort of almost like an alien style frame. If we look out on the arms, you can tell right away that they are much thinner than the other one here. These look to be about 12 millimeters thick, and once again, everything, well, the arms are fully chamfered. The edges on here are just really beautiful, really nice, no carbon dust. The finish on the tooling is fantastic. No burring at all, no scratches. It's really surprising of the carbon quality and carbon cut for such a low-cost frame. And we look at the end, luckily they didn't put 1806 mounts on here. Very nice arm ending, and it should give you plenty of motor protection sticking out there. And then if we move in towards the middle, you can see they did go for press fit nuts, which is actually a really nice option. You can see we just have the main bottom plate with a bunch of nice cool weight reduction cutouts there. And then you have the arms, and then you have another plate to sandwich them together, sort of an X. And you do have to put the press fit nuts in yourself, but I found it pretty easy. It only took me 10-15 minutes, sort of just put them on with your finger. You don't have to smash them in. And then just start tightening the screw, and it'll pull it back into the hole by itself. So it'll self-set, and then you can just unscrew it if you need, and the nut will stay right in there. And it comes with all of the hardware shown here, obviously. So this is obviously meant to be a top-mounted battery quad. You can see we have space for 2 battery straps here if you wish. However, with all these cutouts in the middle, I'm kind of worried that a battery pad won't stick that well, but it shouldn't be too much of an issue there. And these standoffs are relatively close, and it's 2 millimeter carbon, so I don't think your battery is going to break through there. I forgot to mention the top and bottom plates are 2 millimeters, and the arms are 4 millimeters, as well as the arms on this quad are 4 millimeter with 2 millimeter everywhere else. If we take a look in the back, you can see we have a ton of holes for zip tying anything you want here, which is really nice. Once again, they have the straight up hole for mounting your SMA if you wish, but I think it's much better to lay it down out the back like this and then bend it up through that little cutout, which is really nice that they have that there. And then you can secure it with all these holes for zip ties. And then up front, once again, we just have sort of 2 side plates. You have 3 holes to adjust your camera forward and backwards just to fit a standard size camera. Actually, the Mini doesn't fit through the front here just because these standoffs are in, so you'd have to screw it together, put it in, and then put these standoffs in. But just looking at where it would go, it's going to be decently protected. If I line it up with the back, you can see it sticks out just a little bit there, then depending on your tilt, but it's not fully protected. You have a little bump in the front here, but you know, your lens is probably going to hit first if you do hit stuff, but I don't think it's going to be a big issue considering I've flown frames with much less protection and I haven't broken a camera on them. So if you look from the bottom, it's quite obvious of the geometry of this quad. It is a squashed X. It's not a stretched X. It's the reverse, sort of like an H frame, and hopefully you can see the arms. The front section of the body is actually quite a bit bigger and longer than the back section. I think it's actually, it looks a little bit funny from the bottom, but it's actually good because you remove excess weight that you have. You don't need tons and tons of room in the back, because that's still plenty of room there to mount a receiver and video transmitter, but it gives you all the room for your camera up front, which is nice. And for in between the middle section here, for your stack height, it looks like you have just about 20 millimeters there of build room. And if we measure it, it's supposed to be a 220, yep, about 218, 220 millimeters there, and it is about 135 front to back, and left to right it's about 170, so it definitely is a squashed X frame. Now if we take a look at the weight on this guy, it does weigh a little bit more, 108.6, so about 109 grams. Definitely it does have lots of screws, lots of standoffs. It uses the 8 standoffs, and you do have the press fit nuts with individual arms, but really that's not too bad considering other similar frames such as the Mini Quad Club Fusion and the Impulse RC Alien are 2 other popular frames in this style weigh between 130 and 150 grams. So shedding 20 to 30-ish grams on just the frame and still having pretty much exactly the same performance is going to be nice. But you're actually going to be getting more performance because the arms are a lot thinner, and I've found that it definitely does make a difference in terms of efficiency and overall power because you're getting less of the motor thrust blocked by the arm. So even in a freestyle frame like this, I definitely do prefer the thinner arms, and for racing I prefer even thinner than this, and the durability doesn't really go down that much, especially since you're decreasing the weight. So there we go, that was just a quick overview of these two frames from iFlight. Once again, the Transframe X5 and the Race One R1 X5. This guy is it's $60 and this one is $50. I'm not really that interested in this guy, mainly just because of what I said, the unibody and $60. But this guy actually I think is really nice, and for $50, really high quality carbon running the right way down the arms. It's a really stiff frame, really nicely well chamfered arms, no carbon dust, everything. I'm actually going to be building this guy up with a bunch of other iFlight parts coming soon. But yeah, I'm definitely more interested in this frame than that one for sure. Oh, and I forgot to mention one bad thing about this guy is the camera plates. Hopefully, I don't know if you can hear it, but they sort of fit in just a tiny bit loose. If you can see that there. Hopefully you can see me moving that. The cutouts there are just a tiny bit loose, and I always hated that about other frames that use this style. So one way to fix that is if you put a little piece of electrical tape over the top of these before you screw it in, then when you tighten it up, it'll sort of conform around it and take away the extra gaps. Once again, there will be links down below if you're interested in either of these frames, and I will be building this one, so stay tuned for the build video coming soon. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.